Welcome to Saturday's Warrior. We just had Thanksgiving. It's a time of thanks. We're in December. It's now the time of joy, of Christmas spirit. And Adam,
Of
I
course.
can't feel any of it because of all that's surrounding BYU right now. Obviously, there's the Sitake stuff. There is the playoff and the odds stacked against BYU, despite going 11-1. BYU's had a legendary season, one that'll go down in history books of BYU, and I can't enjoy it because of all that's going on. We're going to get into all of that tonight, but before we do, please like the channel, subscribe, this video, subscribe to the channel, do all the things that really helps grow the channel and us to reach more and more BYU fans, Big 12 fans, and everyone out there. So we really appreciate that. But also, please join in the chat. That's why we do these live, is because we love people hopping in and being part of the conversation with us. So, Adam, I already pointed out, I should be so ecstatic. This is probably, yes, BYU won a national championship, but we're in a Power 4 conference. We're doing this at the highest level. It's going 11-1, one loss to, a top 5 team in the country. And we should be thrilled. This is everything we've always wanted, and I can't enjoy it. I'm just so frustrated with all that's going on.
So I actually had planned to come on here tonight and talk about that exact same thing and tell everybody, stop whining, stop worrying about the playoff, enjoy what you've got. This is the best football season since 1984. It's incredible. Just enjoy what we've got. Control what you can control. You can't control the playoff committee. It is what it is. Go out there and win the championship game, Cougs, and let's move forward. And that's how I've been feeling this whole time. I'm not going to let the whole dumb playoff committee thing get me down on a season like this. Let's rejoice. Let's celebrate. It's awesome. And here I sit, Trevor. I have now begun a period of mourning. I am purposefully dressed in all black to observe my period of mourning because I'm of the thought now, as of the time of this recording, we don't know what's happening with Kilani, but that the news about Kilani pushed me over the edge, and so I'm no longer rejoicing this week. I am observing a period of mourning leading up on championship week, no less. We have to go through this, so I hope Sitake pulls a rabbit out of the hat, and I'm wrong, and for some reason things just turn around and he stays. But for me, as of now, I think he's headed to Penn State, and we got some upheaval in the program, and it's too bad. It's too bad.
Yeah, it's not just the fact that Sitake, our head coach, who's just been perfect for this program, has just been a perfect mesh with what we've needed and helped elevate BYU going from independence to Big 12 and having this level of success and bringing in the right coaching staff and bringing in the right players and just getting this program on a trajectory that it's never been on before. And then to lose him potentially the week of our biggest game ever.
Yes.
Yes, BYU beat Michigan, which ultimately led to winning the national championship, but that game
And you didn't
wasn't
know that going in.
right.
No, you didn't know that going in. The stakes weren't on the line like this.
And I
Like this.
remember that specifically. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, so it is hard for our generation to say this is a bigger game than that. I'll let my dad give his opinion and be the ultimate lawgiver on that. But it seems, I mean, certainly in my lifetime, you could argue the Cotton Bowl in '96. Maybe that's a bigger one, but you don't have the stakes on the line. You go to the playoff if you win this, right? If you win the Cotton Bowl, you win the Cotton Bowl and you finish top 5 in the country, which is awesome. I love that '96 season. That solidified my fanhood. But this is a playoff entry game that we get to play in the postseason. It's so awesome with a Big 12 championship on the line. I love it. I was so stoked for this Saturday until and when news started boiling about this on Sunday, I totally dismissed it. I really did. I just thought there's no way. Kalani's probably talking to him, and he's smart to do that. You talk to anybody anytime in your career. He's smart to talk to people. Leverage that to get better things for your staff. But the news reports that are coming out now is that talks have progressed to a much greater detail. He's expressed interest in the job. I don't think you take it that far for quote unquote leverage. Maybe you do. Who knows what's really happening? These are all just rumors at this point. but at least the reports that I'm seeing, there's genuine interest. I think there's a real chance he goes, and if he does, you know, I will always love Kalani and what he did for the program. But it means a lot of upheaval for us, regardless of who he takes with him.
Yeah. To your first point, I didn't completely buy in when people were saying the first Texas Tech game, just to backtrack real quick, was like the biggest game ever. But I think this one is. I think I do because,
Yeah.
like you said, the stakes. But moving on to Sitake, we've got a comment here from Stephen Keel saying 11.5 million to head coach, 10 million for staff, 50 million war chest and rev share from PSU. Is that true? I've seen similar numbers, I think, out there. I can't confirm one way or another what the exact offer from
No.
Penn State is, but does that not look?
No. I think that's consistent. I think it's important to remember, though, you can talk about pure salary numbers, which is going to be higher than BYU. But in addition to that, if you're the head coach at Penn State, you're talking about endorsement deals. There's so much stuff on top of just the salary number that we're talking about, and so it can triple your salary number. That's life. That's life altering money. Uh, and I don't think any of us can sit back and judge because nobody's offered me that kind of money, and so I don't know. You may think you're going to react a certain way, but nobody's dingled that kind of cash in front of my face. But on top of that, it's the endorsement deals that probably that'll put three times on that salary number. So there's some serious money at stake when you're talking about a Penn State level program.
Yeah. So, that is all true. And the upside is you go there and you have success, you're legendary. You go there and you fail, you get a major payday either way. And so it's really lose-lose. It's a lot of money. But here's my read on the situation. We'll get into some tweets and things that I've seen, but and updates that I can give you. But my read going into all this, when all of this noise started coming, I didn't really pay much attention to it because I was like, yeah, this has happened before. People are going to go after Sitake. That's normal. He's not. It doesn't sound like a good fit. It just doesn't seem like it. He wants to be at BYU. I expect him to use this as leverage. Okay, now this is going really far, and maybe that's how far he has to take it for the program to take him seriously. And it has. That's the thing. I truly believe he wants to stay at BYU, and there's probably something that he's expecting from BYU, a certain level, probably not to match exactly, but if he could get a little bit more, and I think he's going to battle for his coaching staff as well. If he can get those things, then I think this is where he wants to be. He doesn't want to go somewhere else. But like you said, this is so much money, so much is there, and then at BYU can't kind of meet him halfway and help him continue to grow this program, then you could see, that might lead to him leaving. But so that's my sense, is that he wants to stay, and BYU really just has to come meet that. Now, what those demands are, where meeting him is, what that looks like, I can't say. And obviously, it's gonna, there's two sides to every story.
Yeah, and for me, the hardest part in this, if he does go, there's a lot of disappointment about this season and the near future and what that means for Bear and Rider Lions and da. You go down the line, there's a lot of short-term disappointment. What's really hard for me, though, is if you can't keep a Kalani Sitake long term, he is as BYU blood as it gets. There will never be a head coach in the next 50 years who has BYU running through his veins like Kalani does. And if we can't keep him long term, to me that signifies a really sad point for the future of the program. When you saw Mark Pope leave for Kentucky, that was okay. Mark Pope was not necessarily this bleeding heart BYU guy like Kalani is, and I was super happy for Mark Pope. He goes back to his alma mater. That was a cool thing, and things worked out for BYU and for Kentucky. But if you can't keep Kalani, I don't know who you're going to keep long term. I don't know who you're going to keep long term. It's not going to happen. That's it. Staying at BYU long term requires a certain level of loyalty because you're. I think BYU can compete for national championships. I don't think we will ever be viewed as a Penn State. And so if there will always be a bigger fish that comes along, and if you can't keep a Kalani, man, I don't know that we have a coach that comes in here that gives you more than 10 years.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with Sitake. If it's not Penn State this year and they keep him, it's going to be another program and another.
It is.
And
It
so
is.
you really have to, and this is going to keep going. Like they extended Kevin Young 1 year after they just brought him in, giving him like this huge deal. So it's going to happen. And it's going to, you're just going to have to continue to meet those demands. And I think it's worth it in the case of Kalani, especially because, the pool from which you can pull candidates from is relatively small. And like, I love Jay Hill, and a lot of people say, yeah, I'll just put Jay Hill, it's I don't know, why do we have to choose? Like, and that's, I think, something Kalani wants is, hey, I want to be able to pay these guys and keep these guys here with me.
Exactly.
And that would be the best of both worlds. But also, Jay Hill's not necessarily like the BYU guy through and through, like Kalani is. Like, there's no saying that Jay Hill would stay here forever. Like, this could be a stepping stone for him.
Absolutely.
And I won't blame him. So I want to read a couple things because there's a lot of news out there. Jake Hatch, this was one that came out how long ago? Not too long ago, last hour. But he said there are 2 meetings today. One was a dud, and I think that means because these were talking about meetings in Utah. So this is people trying to keep him at BYU. The other one he didn't know. That doesn't sound great to me. And then this is something I've seen in a couple places, but this is one tweet. Now this is a guy from Indiana and another guy from Barstool. So take from it what you will, but I've seen this going around more and more, talking about multiple sources saying BYU boosters went past AD Brian Santiago to the church with Elder Razban involved in retention efforts. So crazy. It would be crazy if Elder Razban, a Ute, ended up being the savior here, but like being the guy that was able to keep Sitake at BYU. And then, so apparently tension between Sitake and Santiago. I can't speak to that, but that's crazy if people are having to bypass Santiago, if he's not doing everything possible to keep Kalani.
I've heard that a lot too. I think there's Santiago's coming out of this not looking good either way, and I hesitate. My initial instinct is, oh my goodness, BYU athletics is not in good hands. This is scary, but I'm also trying to temper that instinct because again, these are all rumors and reports, and so I don't know. Santiago may be doing a great job in this pitch, and Sitake is just considering a change of venue. There are unique pressures on a BYU head coach. Bronco talked about that a lot, and I think he had an interest in leading the program after 7 or 8 years because of those pressures. It's a fan base that is not satisfied without a national championship, and has the odds stacked against them. Look at this year to compete for a national championship. So I think it is a uniquely challenging. It's not like Penn State's any easier, but BYU is a uniquely enthusiastic and equally difficult fan base, I think, to be the head coach for. And so I think there's some pressures that make it appealing for some of these head coaches to leave, and that may be it. But so I don't want to pile on Santiago because that's my instinct is to be like, oh my goodness, if RAD can't close this deal, this is bad luck for him. What's the future going to be like? I think we all feel that way, but I think it's good to step back and say they're rumors. We don't know. There's probably 5 people in the world who know exactly what those conversations have been like.
So you're saying the BYU fan base is the Alexander Hamilton, the fan base is never be satisfied. So
that is fairly accurate. That is fairly. I mean,
well,
right? And I love us, right? There's a lot of love for us. But come on, we're always clamoring for the national title. We're always quick to jump on our team when we drop a game, and there's so much enthusiasm for the program right now, though. It would be hard to lose that momentum with Sitake leaving because yes, it's a tough fan base, but man, we turn out in droves everywhere for this football team, and there's so much excitement.
See, and you mentioned Bronco, and that felt like a time when it was kind of a mutual parting, that the fan base was kind of split. Like some people hated him, some people loved him. I loved him, but it felt like it was time for both sides to kind of get a change. That was one thing. But Sitake seems almost universally loved by the fan base.
I agree. Yes.
And so he's one that you want to keep. And what I think is interesting, granted, that these guys that work for BYU TV, we heard it, I don't know if you listened today to Spencer and Jerem go on, especially Jerem really making a push for saying, hey, they got to do whatever. And even mentioning Santiago keeping Sitake. And then you see tweets like this from Dave McMahon. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he's talking about everything that we're talking about here. And just saying, you got to keep him, and talking about you only leave if you don't feel supported or feel the respect. And so you have guys that, granted, they don't answer to Brian Santiago, but they're straight up calling this out. Like these guys are are much closer to it than, again, they're not one of those people that's in the room, but they're much closer to the situation. They're definitely like siding with Kilani on this. And so I don't know. For me, I just think you have to do what it takes to keep Sitake there, especially because he wants to be there.
Yeah, he does. He clearly wants to be there. He said that over and over again.
This
And he's
isn't
always
Lane
been
Kiffin, who's just
right,
always
right. I know he's clearly not one that's just jumping. That's what I mean. He's a BYU guy through and through. If we can't put together a package that says we are committed to you, we're committed to your vision for this program, then I don't know who you're going to keep long term. If it would be so great if we could work this out, and I think Kalani, he's joked around about being the Polynesian Lavelle. That could totally happen if we could put together, enough support. And I get that Kalani's always going to want, the sun, the moon, and the stars for his football program. That's what you want as a head coach. You got to ask for that because you want to compete at the highest level. And the reality is, even with boosters with seemingly endless deep pockets that we've had lately, there's finite resources. There are finite resources. We're not Penn State, and unless we slowly build to that over 20 years, there's just not going to be that level of coffers. But there's enough clearly to compete at a super high level. It sounds like Kalani's interested in a little bit more, and as a fan base, we're like, yeah, no brainer. Look what he's done. Like, he's clearly matching whatever the investment has been in that program. You can't tell me that we're not getting a serious ROI on this on a year like this, going to the Big 12 championship game, potential playoff berth. It takes a huge investment to get there, but I think you're seeing the ROI, and it seems like as a fan, you're sitting there like, oh my goodness, this is a no-brainer. You're like, well, I don't know what he's asking for, but do it. I mean, come on. But again, we're not there. I don't see the numbers in front of me. I'm not an AD. I don't have to run a department like that. I don't have to answer to people Santiago has to answer to. So I don't know. It's not a good look for him, but I think it's important to recognize that we know as a fan, you don't get to know those things. You know nothing of what's happening besides these little tweets and rumors that we catch wind of here and there.
Yeah. No, you're right. I know we already touched upon this, but I like this tweet, and I wanted to read this. This is from Diggin Brigham on Twitter. He says, when Mark Pope left BYU for UK, it felt like a guy breaking an engagement because his rich, hot lifetime love was finally ready. Kalani leaving BYU for PSU is like a guy walking out on his wife and kids because he's bored and doing it a week before his daughter's wedding. I mean, he's not doing it because he's bored. That is not it at all. But I think that is a hilarious analogy. It does feel deeper. It feels it would hurt much more than Mark Pope. And the timing is terrible. Which, let's shift gears to that again. We're doing this live. If you're joining us for the first time, please hop in the chat. We love to get the commentary on all this. What do you think? Is Sitake going to stay? Is he going to go? Also, let's talk now Texas Tech. We got the conference championship game. I spent basically the whole post game again after BYU just completed a regular season of going 11-1, following up a 10-2 regular season. I spent basically the whole post game talking about how absurd this whole playoff situation is with BYU being stuck at number 11. And so I don't know. We could talk about that. I don't want to get just into that the whole time, but we do need to address that some more. But ultimately, the committee's made it clear. And after BYU's bye week, where everything went their way so they can move up, basically none of the games that BYU has needed to go their way to kind of push out the teams ahead of them have gone their way. And so BYU is basically stuck at 11. We don't know. We'll find out on Tuesday night where the committee ultimately has BYU going into this the conference championship week. But we can, I think, pretty safely assume they're going to keep us at 11. And so we saw Texas Tech stay at number 5, even though A&M lost ahead of them. We would have thought Tech would have moved up in the AP poll. I expect the committee to have a little more sense, but I don't really have a lot of faith in them either. A little bit more than the AP poll, but not much. So we'll see how that goes. So I don't know. Basically, this is a win and you're in. It's stupid. BYU should be in regardless, but that's not the situation. Again, we can hack that out some more. But I want to look ahead a little bit to this Texas Tech game and say, okay, biggest game of potentially BYU's history. Like, it's one of the biggest games. And BYU got shellacked by Tech just a few weeks ago. How is this game going to be any different? Well, especially with Sitake looming overhead.
Correct. Honestly, his decision in my mind determines our competitiveness in the game. Because if he leaves, forget it. Forget it. Even if he coaches, there's too much distraction. BYU has to pitch nearly a perfect game to beat this Tech team. They're incredibly good. We are capable of beating them, but it takes nearly a perfect game to beat them. So in this magical world where Sitake comes out, meets with the team tonight, and says, "Hey guys, I'm here. I'm sticking with you all the way. You know, I'm a BYU guy. I'm signing a contract extension. Let's go do this." Whatever he says. In that world, I think BYU's got a chance. I put BYU's chances at about a coin flip. I don't know that they're favored, but I like them 45 to 50% of the time in this, because whenever you get a rematch, the team that won the previous one is not going to make a whole lot of changes. They'll make some changes, right? They got to do better in the red zone. They know they got to clean up some stuff, but mentally they're thinking, we're going to go out there and do what we did last time. We're going to dominate. The team that lost knows they're going to make wholesale changes. And so primarily you got a healthy LJ, which is big, right? He was running for 8 or 9 yards a carry. He just couldn't finish the carries, and that's when he stopped getting the ball. And we tried to lean on Preston Rex. So LJ is going to be a difference maker. Two, you saw BYU go max protect all the time in that Texas Tech game. And it was a tight end and running back chip blocking those defensive ends. BYU looked like they were terrified of those defensive ends. And maybe appropriately so. Those guys are good. But if you're going to beat them, you got to tell your tackles you're going one-on-one. I think Hans Olsen did a big clip on that today on his show where he just said, "Look, Jada, Gentry, earn your money. This is time. You go one-on-one with these guys who are dogs out there, who are NFL defensive ends, and you win your matchup. You win your one-on-one, and that's how you win this game. Because if you put 5 receivers out there, that's how Arizona State beat them. Is they were aggressive in the passing game and downfield passing game, and I don't know that Texas Tech's secondary can do it. So if BYU's offensive line can give Bear just enough time to get that ball out, I like BYU putting up 28, 30 points on this team. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but Bear's capable of it. He's shown it. It's a question of, can they get him enough time to get the ball off? Again, in a world where Sitake is not leaving and everybody gets to focus, Jay Hill's going to deliver that defense. He's going to deliver, and that defense is going to perform. So I think BYU's got a shot in this. They're going to change their approach. Their special teams has been reliable all season except for that game. They're going to come through, and I think it's going to be a game.
Yeah, I do expect this to be a closer game. It is hard to beat a team twice in one season, and mostly because of that, because the losing team has all the motivation and they know where these changes are coming from. Now the winning team can, try to predict some of those changes and make some adjustments. But when you win, you got to kind of stick with what's working. I don't know. And there's just that mentality of it that you talked about. So I do like BYU to keep this closer. It is going to be tough though. Like you said, they are still going to have to be near perfect. And I think a big one, obviously, the defense was kind of the one lone bright spot of that game, especially considering how much they were on the field, what they were able to limit Texas Tech to. And if you look at it, their margin out of all their winning games, that was the best margin, or the tightest margin that they had in a win, and their lowest scoring game in a win. And so that is really good. If our defense can continue to do that, and assuming they're not on the field as much, assuming that our linebackers are getting more healthy, that we're getting some of that depth back. Okay, if that can hold and give you similar production, the offense is looking healthier. LJ has been looking really good lately. We know he wasn't himself yet in that game against in that first game. Moa potentially coming back. You get Kirkland. You get a lot of guys. Obviously Chase Roberts, and we also have JoJo Phillips. So we have more options at wide receiver. All our guys are getting healthier. Just the depth, and I think we can throw some different things at them. So if our offense can even just take some steps forward, well, they're gonna have to do more than that because they did nothing in the last game. But if they can progress a little bit, and then special teams, like they've helped swing games for us. If they can at least just stay neutral, like not completely shoot our Snubs in the foot with special teams, and just at least
field goals,
neutral,
punt coverage, kick coverage. Yes.
Like if we could get like a return like we had last week with Parker, great. I'm not expecting that. I'm not anticipating that. But if we can at least like not hurt ourselves on special teams, then I do trust that our offense can make some adjustments. I think there's enough talent. There's enough there to have a better performance to make this a close game. And BYU has won close games. This is what I liked about them the first time. I thought, hey, BYU can keep this close. I like them against anybody because we know how to do it and have the confidence. And I think there's a real skill to that, a real mentality that this team definitely has. Here's where my concern is. Not just that, Tech is really, really good and had our number last time. But my concern is when you see BYU come out, they're in a similar situation as Tech. This game was set Friday night when Arizona beat ASU. Both teams knew going into Saturday morning that their spot was secured. Both teams were going up against bottom teams in the conference. BYU had one at home. Texas Tech had one away. Tech blanked West Virginia, who I think is better than UCF. At least right
they've
now.
been playing better lately, yes.
And they went to Morgantown and blanked them and just mopped the floor with them. BYU came out slow and unfocused. And this is a team with more distractions. Now, we've already talked about Sitake. There's more distractions and, everything's on the line. And they come out distracted when they know there's no room for error. They need the style points. They need anything they can in case, they didn't know the outcomes of these other games. They didn't know if Auburn was going to screw that opportunity. They didn't know that Oklahoma, whatever, anybody could have lost. And there were teams nipping at their heels right behind them, ready to jump BYU. BYU had to come out focused and just pitch a great game, not because they needed it to win, but they needed it for the committee. And they didn't do that. They came out. I mean, granted, the back half of the game, after you gave up 14, then it was, 41-7?
41-7, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's great, but Tech didn't even blink the whole time. And Bear Morton got rested and, and they continued to blow them out. And so that worries me because this Tech team seems dialed in and they seem to be at another level. And BYU is going to have to be able to match that intensity on a week when there's a lot of other distractions going on.
That's what worries me most is the mental side of the game. I feel like physically we can match up. On paper, we can match up, and I think you can push this on a neutral field. I think you can push it to a coin flip matchup. But BYU, if you get TCU BYU game, like if they're that focused from the jump, yeah, I like our chances. I like them better than 50%. But BYU has not been that dialed in, especially to start a game. I feel like the way we started the Arizona game was awesome, right? And then had all kinds of things, didn't finish. Turns out Arizona's a great team. But the way we played in that first quarter and the way we played against TCU, the way you played against Utah, BYU's had some games in there where they just look dialed in. But the majority of games we have not, and maybe that's the knock on them from a committee standpoint, is there's lapses, there's slow starts, there's there's these gaps where you have to come back, and you can't do that against Tech. You can't from the opening kickoff. You have to play a near perfect game to beat a team like this because they're that good. And that's where I do feel like we have some advantages coming in here after the loss and the adjustments we can make and things like that, and all that's great. But BYU has to be able to do something they haven't been able to do against Cincy or against UCF, and that's be dialed in from the beginning. I felt like Cincy we left a lot on the field as well, and so if we don't play the TCU type game, I don't think we win.
Yeah, you have to be dialed in the whole time. We got comments here coming in. We got Autobong 5000 saying BYU is outperformed relative to composite talent. It's time to give football the same treatment as basketball. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going on with all the NIL deals. I think they are doing a lot. I mean, they're bringing Ryder Lyons in and other guys that we've brought in this offseason and things. So I think that is improved. I just don't. Yeah, I can't say because football is different than basketball because you got so many guys to kind of spread the wealth around to. But that could be part of it. This could be a revenue share thing in terms of Sitake and his negotiation. It could, when he's talking about resources, he's talking about his salary, he's talking about coaching staff. It could be the revenue share, whatever else that all the resources that the school has. And one thing is, the basketball team, they have their own practice facility. BYU, I heard that the field, their practice facility is booked with like intramural finals and stuff or something. They're trying to practice for this game, and it's interfering with that. And it's like, No, you cancel those, whatever. Like if those intramural
Huh.
teams are willing to forfeit their their game to let the BYU team practice, like this
I
is
hope
just.
that's not true. I
I
hope
hope
that's
so
not
too.
true.
I hope so too. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that it's crazy. Like things like that are absurd. So you'd like to think that field over there, the old Provo High School field, maybe that could become their own facility, or if not, who knows what they have in store for
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, if I think it does come to, that's this next comment from Gary Cooper, and we talked about this a lot. I don't know if you're just hopping on here, but we talked about Sitake for a while, and that does seem to be the conversation, is that the administration hasn't really supported him. We just talked about the intramural, but in other ways, I think as well. And you just got to pay that man. You got to pay him. You got to pay his coaches, and you got to give him the resources to allow him to be successful. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but he's seen what they've done with Kevin Young, and I'm sure he expects at least the same, if not more, after what he's done. And as great as basketball is, football is the revenue driver. Football is what brings eyeballs and brings in that revenue and spreads the name of BYU. So I think
unless Kalani leaves, and then we're a basketball school.
I don't know. I like to think that we have enough there, and that there's enough guys in that coaching staff that would stay behind and that would be able to retool. I mean, who knows who he'd be able to
I
take.
hope so. And I, everybody's mind goes through all those scenarios. I don't think it's worth really diving into unless we really have to. And then we can do a whole show next week on what the future of the program looks like.
Yeah. So, it's hard to say. Hopefully he stays. That's the latest thing I heard, is that it's looking up, but it's really up to Sitake at this point. So we're all just kind of waiting for him to pray about it and figure things out and decide what's best. But if he were to listen to us, I'd tell him to stay. But obviously,
I'm sure he's tuning in now.
He's tuned in now. Hey,
heavily influencing this life-changing decision.
Sitake, like, subscribe, and stay at BYU. Actually, you don't even have to like or subscribe. Just stay at BYU. But no, it's wild. So at this point, we're just gonna have to wait and see. It's just the timing just sucks. Like
it really does. It just puts such a damper on the season, and I feel for Ole Miss too, and tons of other schools. I mean, you name it: Tulane, North Texas. It goes on and on and on and on. If we get an NCAA commissioner, I hope there's some more structure around this, because don't ruin amazing seasons. I get the coaches leave, and I get that the G5 and G6 is a platform to go to the P4, and it will always be that way, and those coaches will always leave. You can't change that, and maybe you shouldn't change it, but at least give validity to these seasons, and don't let the coach walk when you're going into the CFP. I feel for Ole Miss. And I like Lane Kiffin. I like his brand of football. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see what he's done with Ole Miss. And it makes me mad that Ole Miss fans finally get into the CFP and sit there and lose your head coach, and you hurry and promote the DC, and hopefully you can play. But tons of staff and tons of players are going to follow him. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess for a team that earned a great season, finally got into the CFP, and it's awful. We for the good of the sport, you got to fix this aspect of it, so players aren't transferring before the playoff, and coaches aren't walking away after a season before a playoff run. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's terrible. The timeline really needs to be fixed with this, and I don't know what the answer there is, but they need to iron that out, because it's ruining season. You mentioned these G6 schools, Tulane, North Texas, all these guys this is potentially like their biggest game also of this program history, potential to get into the playoff. I mean, there's a chance both of them get in. We can talk about that, but and that's the same situation that BYU is in. And this is the biggest, these humongous games. And then if they do get into the playoff, obviously it's an even bigger game, an opportunity for them, and to lose their coach. Also with the coaching carousel thing, that's crazy, because like outside of Lane Kiffin, the rest of the hires have all been bringing up guys from either promoting from within, bringing in an assistant coach, or bringing in
a former coach like Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah, absolutely. There've been very few poaching from other P4 programs, and there's Lane Kiffin, and now there's Sitake, and it just kind of stinks when everybody else is going other directions. Somehow, BYU's gotten in the mix here, and I, like I said, I didn't think BYU was at risk at this at all. Something non-BYU. I want to understand, like, why do coaches change, like, within the SEC? Like, it's not unique to Lane Kiffin, but we've seen these guys, like, you're getting all the same resources. You're almost equally. I mean, LSU is a bigger brand than Ole Miss, but not like way bigger brand. And you're in you're in the SEC. It's similar situation.
Yeah,
To go next door to build a program back up. I don't understand that versus like staying where you're at. You've already proven that you can get to the playoff and have tons of success at that level.
I had this debate with someone because I felt the same way. And like I said, I like Kiffin. He's been much maligned in his career. It's been fun to see him, come back. He went to FAU and he's kind of built up. I've followed his career a little bit. And from a college football standpoint, I like him. He's funny. I like his brand of football. But this one made no sense to me. I don't think he's going to succeed at LSU. I think he's walking into a dumpster fire. I think they're a win in 3 years or fire you type of program, and win a national title in 3 years. I mean, it's the expectations are insane for those schools. However, somebody pointed out LSU being the only P4 program in Louisiana, you do have more resources, you have more in the coffers. It's a bigger NIL fund, and I'm thinking, no way does Ole Miss not rival LSU. But you dig into the numbers, and there's more resources. What Kalani's asking for: more resources for assistants, more resources for NIL, and certainly a bigger brand. And so a lot of what LSU is going to offer is, yes, a bigger salary, but on top of that, the endorsements you get at LSU and things like that are just really grow that financial pot for not just the head coach, but what you can offer for coordinators and assistant coaches. So there's a lot more resources at LSU compared to Ole Miss when you get to that level. But I had the same thought when I looked at it.
He's
I'm like, what
already
in the
doing
world?
it. He's already doing it with less. Like, he's proven. Like, you could say, yeah, but I'll have more resources to do it with. But that's not necessarily the answer. You've seen Brian Kelly just fail.
That's true. That's true. It's not necessarily the answer, but I think Kiffin's looking at it and he's like, well, if I didn't think Trinidad Chambliss was going to turn out. I don't think anybody did. Even Lane Kiffin didn't think he'd be this good. And if he wasn't this good, Ole Miss goes through another season where it's 9-4 with your bowl win, and so I don't. I think there's some frustration there that he's not able to pay for the 5 stars across the board, Texas Tech type approach. I don't think Ole Miss is doing that, and
Yeah.
which surprises me. That really surprises me that they're not, but apparently they're not.
Wild. Anyway, I don't really care about that much. I mean, it's going to happen. I thought another interesting coaching hire was Michigan State, who's had their own share of scandals. Hire Pat
I know.
Fitzgerald after his own scandalous outing at Northwestern.
I know.
He's a good coach, but just seems like an interesting choice from a program that you'd think would want like something. A Kalani Sitake.
Kalani Sitake, right? I know. It is kind of a head scratcher, and I don't know. To me, maybe you go for a guy who's had a track record of success there. It's just so hard at these schools. I mean, you look at Florida. I don't know that Florida got a home run hire, but they've had how many hires and they just can't get it done there for the last 15 years. And I don't know. It's so hard to be one of those programs. It really is. Everybody wants to find the next Saban, and he doesn't exist. I mean, maybe Kirby Smart is close to that, but I mean, you look at Dabo at Clemson, who just can't figure it out anymore, and it, the demands have become insane. And I think Saban, who I now respect now that he's retired, I was so sick of him when he was a head coach, but man, he's a class act. I have to admit that, and I think college football could use a little bit of that. But he set that standard so high, and it feels like all those programs are not satisfied unless you're winning 4 out of 5 national titles or something like that.
And the problem is it's going to be harder and harder to find that, because even if you find the right coach with NIL and the way things are right now, it's really even the playing field. It's not completely even, but it's getting more and more even. So it's going to be harder to be this program that just, goes undefeated every year. Just, these blue bloods that really cut their teeth all those years on just beating up on lesser talent. There's more and more talent, and it's spread more and more evenly across the board.
Which I love. That's so good for the sport.
It is good for the sport. And so the expectations of having like a Nick Saban and having that kind of sustained success for that long is just unrealistic anymore. Having said that, our unrealistic expectation for BYU is that they should be automatically into the playoff. And it's that is the truth. But I know we're running on time here. I do want to get to a couple comments here. We got at Void 7 saying surely there's no way Kilani leaves BYU, right? That's how I feel, and that's how I felt. I didn't really pay much credence to any of the noise that was going on. I was like, he's not going. It's it's a song and dance. They'll give him an extension, and then we all move on. I'm starting to feel like this is real, and there's real fire here with the smoke. Having said that, I still can't see him leaving, especially for like Penn State. It just feels like a weird fit. And if it doesn't happen, because I think he wants to stay, it's on the BYU or whoever, like making these decisions, not being able to get the resources, not willing to give the resources. So Autobong 5000 says, I don't think this fan base can tolerate stinginess when the resources exist to make the program even better. Yeah, we know the resources are there. So I don't think, which is ironic coming from the stingiest fan bases that exists. But
but you have so many deep-pocketed boosters who come out. Well, who was it that came out and said BYU will not get outbid for anybody? I mean, we are looked at as this, smaller school that's just rolling in money and making it work with the NIL and buying championships, and that was the narrative behind BYU this offseason for basketball and for football. And so to have a head coach come out and be like, "Well, we're not going to commit to the resources, so I'm leaving," that's huge, and it completely changes the narrative. But it is when you have boosters who are ponying up today to say whatever it takes to keep Kilani, we're there. I guarantee you there are boosters who are doing that. They're so passionate about BYU sports. And it just seems funny that this is about resources in the era of NIL when BYU has been the poster child for leading out and saying we're gonna pay players market rate. We're not gonna blow out the market, but we're gonna be competitive.
Oh, okay. I'm going to keep going through these comments, and I'm with you on that. Clifton McMullen says, doesn't BYU have huge NIL? It does, like it. Which obviously is separate from the coaching salary, but it does indicate that there's people there are boosters, there are people that have money to make this happen. So I feel like if they wanted to, they could figure this out. And I think that's where the fan base is going to have a real issue if they don't keep him. Now, if this was the BYU of Independence era, or even a few years ago, I think we'd all be like, yeah, I guess we understand. We hate it, but we understand. I don't think that's acceptable anymore with what we've seen with basketball, with what we've seen with this program over the years. It's just not acceptable anymore. And then we got a Penn State fan in here. Hey, welcome.
Hey.
Mark Ross says, I'm a Penn State fan, and I think it's kind of weird. Maybe Sanderson pulled his weight. What do you mean it's weird in terms of going after Sitake, like a weird fit? That's how I'm taking that comment. And
so I've been reading some Penn State blogs, and there's not a lot of excitement around Sitake. They want to see one of the, I think it's the OC at Ohio State is one of their top candidates, and that's kind of they want to go with someone they know. Pulling Sitake clear from the western side of the states over to Penn State, it is an odd fit. The fit. So I think from a Penn State fan standpoint, he's not really a splashy hire. He's not going to win the press conference, but whoever that recruitment committee is has narrowed in on him as the guy. And as a BYU fan, I don't blame him. I love the guy. I think he can build a program successful wherever he goes. The knock on him is he's not really this offensive genius, defensive genius. He's a CEO type who's going to bring in the genius and to the program and let it do its thing, which is how James Franklin operated. And so from a Penn State standpoint, I think the concern from what I've read is I don't want another James Franklin. We moved on from that. We want the big impact hire. So I think from a Penn State fan standpoint, it's not a splashy hire, similar to Mark Pope to Kentucky.
Yeah, and we often see coaching hires when you get pulled from one region to another. It takes a while to transition. Oftentimes it doesn't work out. It just doesn't translate. You don't have the same roots in the recruiting or maybe the understanding of the culture of the area or the fan base or whatever. So we'd see. It does strike me as weird. That's why I never bought into it. But who knows? If they're serious enough, and it sounds like Penn State is serious, it really could happen. It's generational wealth. It's a lot of resources. It's something to be hard to turn down. So let's go ahead and make our picks real quick, Adam. Our conference championship picks. Let's run through these real quick. So Big 12, play is over. So now we're just going to go through all FBS conference championships. So I should have put I wrote down the games, but I have to remember which conferences are because they've all been mixed up so much at the G6 level. But Troy versus JMU, which is the Sun Belt Conference. Who you got there?
JMU.
Okay, me
Absolutely.
too. Yeah, I think
I love JMU. I got them in the playoff, man. Duke's gonna be Virginia, and we're gonna see two G6s.
Let's talk about that because that's a whole nother episode. I want to dive into a lot of thoughts on that. But all right, so and then we got Conference USA, Kennesaw State, who I don't even think should be in FBS anyway, and Jacksonville State. So who you got there?
Jack State, and I really don't know on this one, man. Conference USA is spread their wings wide.
Yeah, I think I just looked at it. I think Kennesaw State won the first matchup a few weeks ago, but like we said, it's hard to win two times, beat a team 2 times. So, all right, UNT Tulane. This should actually be a really fun game.
I'm excited about this game. I struggled with this pick, but I'm going to go with Tulane. They got them at home, and I think they've got the better defense. And we'll see if Jake Retzloff can get it done. Can you imagine a world where BYU wins the conference championship, Tulane wins this, and Tulane visits BYU for a playoff with Retzloff as the quarterback? Man, talk about the drama. So I know it's unlikely, but I think Tulane wins this.
That's better than what I was thinking. I was thinking, can you imagine a world where Retzloff goes to a G6 school, gets into the playoff, and BYU doesn't after going 11-1 without
Which absolutely could happen.
Absolutely could. It totally sucks, and it could totally happen. And in fact, it's probably what's most likely to happen.
More probable, that
a
could
higher
be more
probability.
Yes.
I'm going with my heart in this one. I'm just going with Retzloff there with the BYU, or what do we say to the Bayou Jew or something?
There you go. I like that.
All right, UNLV versus Boise State.
Yeah, I struggled with this one too because it's hard to pick against Boise State. They've been so reliable over the years. They got more experience, but I'm buying into the UNLV hype train. I think they're going to get it done against the Broncos. Boise State's been playing with fire. They don't have their quarterback Madsen, so I'm going to go with UNLV tentatively on this one.
Yeah. I'm also going with UNLV on this one. I just, Kellen Moore's not walking through those doors. Ian Johnson or whatever, isn't walking through those doors. This is a different team, and they've come up short in their big games this year. Okay, Miami of Ohio, Western Michigan. So since Ohio State ended Michigan's 4-game win streak, I got to go with at least one Michigan school beating another Ohio school. So that is why I'm going with Western Michigan.
I'm going with Miami of Ohio because I have no idea. I've watched some of both of these teams this year, but not very closely. And based on their record and their past games, this is a coin flip. I have no idea.
Oh, I have not watched any action this year, so good on you. Okay, Georgia versus Bama.
Oh, I'm going to go Georgia. Again, Bama got the best of them the first time. Georgia's got a bone to pick. Bama's playing with fire the past couple of weeks. I don't think they're the same team that beat the 4 top 25 teams. That I don't think are that great. I don't buy into the whole SEC hype anyway this year, and I think Georgia's got their number.
I picked Georgia again. I'm just making picks with my heart at this point. I'm going with Georgia because there's a chance if they just blow out Alabama, and they'd have to completely just embarrass Bama.
55-3.
A chance to have, and BYU to have to win. Maybe lose a super close. Maybe you could see BYU eke in an at-large. I don't think it happens, but I'm just I'm holding on to hope here. So Indiana versus Ohio State. Never, ever, 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 ever will I root for Ohio State. Not only that, I think Indiana has a real shot and may actually be the better team.
I think so too. I do. I haven't been super impressed with Ohio State at all this year. Even though they're undefeated, I think they're deserving of a top 5 ranking. Absolutely. You go undefeated, you're deserving of a top 2 ranking. But I don't feel like they've really been tested. I don't feel like they've gone against that really difficult team like Indiana has when they beat Oregon at Oregon. I think Indiana wins this. I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. Duke UVA. This one, Matt, it'd be crazy. In some way, in part, I have so many torn emotions on this because I want to root for the underdog. Obviously, I like rooting for Virginia schools. I live in Virginia, but I want to root for the underdog. But also, if Duke wins, it'd be bad for the ACC, which kind of makes me happy, and I enjoy their suffering. But it also, since ACC and Big 12 are kind of on a similar playing field, whatever happens to the ACC, it almost feels like, well, then this could happen to the Big 12, going forward. And so I also don't want to see that happen, because you got to think of the big picture and not like just the moment. And so I don't know, but also it would be like the little guy winning, and it would allow two little guys into the playoff in terms of a G6 schools getting in. And so that would be really cool too for those schools. I don't know. I'm all over the place on what I want to happen, but I do think UVA pulls it out.
So I picked UVA as well. I share some of those emotions, but mostly go Duke, go chaos. I love chaos. I love the fact that the ACC could be shut out of the playoff. I love it. And I love that the Big 12 has clearly established themselves as the third football conference, and I hope we go in there and make some noise in the playoff this year. I've said this before: you got to win in the playoff to establish yourself that you really are in the conversation with big time college football. And I think the Big 12 is. I really do. And if we can get two teams in there, we got a better shot at this. But go Duke, man! That'd be hilarious.
Here's the thing: I also worry about, what if the committee's like, we can't leave the ACC out altogether. Miami somehow jumps in ahead of BYU, taking a spot, and you have two G6, which means that's one less at-large spot available. Obviously making it
That means you're kicking out BYU and Bama for Miami.
Yeah.
Which
Wait,
is
so
never gonna happen.
you picked Duke or you picked UVA?
I pick UVA. I want Duke to win, but I pick UVA. UVA is going to win it.
And then lastly, BYU is the one game we always pick against the spread, because we're both always picking BYU. Of course, they are predicted to lose this game. So are we both picking Cougars in this one? Because they would cover.
I am picking BYU to cover with a contingency. If Kilani leaves, I reserve the right to change my vote to not cover the spread. Because I'll tell you, if our head coach is gone, no way do we compete in that game. I would hope we play inspired football and all that, and that cliche. I just don't see it happening against the Texas Tech team. So I'm picking BYU to cover, and I reserve the right to change that on a contingency if Kilani leaves.
Yeah, I think they cover too. I do think it's a closer game than last time, and I think they've got more to show, and should be a good one. So I'm picking BYU. I'm picking to cover. Do I think it'll happen? I don't know, but I think covering is a good bet. Adam, I know you got to go. I'll let you go, and then I'm going to cover up the last few comments here through this, and I'll let you go. But,
all right. Well, good luck, Cougar Nation. We got this. We can get through hard times.
Say your prayers tonight, everybody.
That's right. If we need to mourn, we'll go through a period of mourning. The future is always bright. Okay, we'll get through this.
All right. Well, we'll see you when Kellen Moore's hired as the next head coach.
Perfect.
All right. Go Cougs, man. All right. So, Clifton, I want to get to all your comments. I saw him coming in here. He said, thanks, I'm an Arizona Wildcat, but no, BYU shelled out a lot for basketball. Sitake is BYU born and bred. Hope he stays, and he's a class act. He really is. He's great for the program. He's perfect. He embodies everything I think that BYU is, and look at what he's been able to build. So it would be a shame to lose him. The resources are there. The thing is, I think a lot of those resources are coming from guys who are very invested in basketball specifically. I'm sure they want BYU or football to do well. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not in these people's head, but just from kind of what I've seen and kind of reading between the lines. And so, not that football hasn't been funded. It has. Football has been given lots of resources. I would guess in total, much more than basketball, but it's going to take more because, football is generally 80% of the revenue driver in any school's athletic budget. So let's see. You said, would Kilani do good with the poly community, considering Penn State has a lot more crazy weather? Just throwing that out there. It's not that Utah's cold. He's been in snow, and there's a lot of polys there in Utah. Having said that, the East Coast cold, it is different, and it does bite a little bit deeper. So I don't know. I know everyone was talking about plane flights going from Happy Valley to Provo and this and that and being canceled. I don't know. If he made it out there, it's pretty miserable on the East Coast right now. So hopefully he didn't make it to Happy Valley. Hopefully it was terrible weather and he, reconsidered things. Although that kind of money that they're talking about is going to help you weather any of that. So good question. I don't know. And then, sorry, I joined late if my previous question was addressed already, but I enjoyed watching. Hey, thanks. Really come back. We love talking Big 12. Obviously, we're primarily focused on BYU, but we love talking Big 12 and all college football here on the show. So we love having you and getting outside perspective. So appreciate it, Clifton. But thanks so much for joining us tonight. Anybody, if you join at any point during the show, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. We come out Mondays through the season. We'll look at it, maybe potentially keep doing these throughout the basketball season, but we come on, do live reactions after games. We'll be on this week after the conference championship game. Win or lose, rain or shine, we're there to break it down. And then also looking to get another Texas Tech preview lined up for this week. So subscribe so you can catch all of that content as we put it out there. And also, I've got a lot more working on kind of in the background as well for discussing kind of the bigger picture with college football, the playoffs, and what kind of changes we need to see. So please join us, come back, be part of the conversation. That's what it's all about. And then hopefully we can come back and do this again, talking about Sitake staying at BYU, being extended. I love it. But regardless, we'll soldier on here, BYU Cougar Nation. So, all right, thanks. We're gonna wrap up here, but appreciate it. Love all the comments and the feedback. So thank you. And as always, go Cougs.